It's David Arquette, Dewey from the Scream movies, as you know. Remember, there's only one rule to surviving a horror movie, and that's subscribing to Craven Something Scary.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, visitors, subscribers, patrons, and Cravenites. Welcome to Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Well, guys, here we are on Monday night, and it is a great Monday night. It's a night that I've been looking forward to for quite some time. My guest tonight has been on a couple of times before. I believe this is his third visit to the channel, and we had originally planned to meet way back at the end of March or April, and things did not work out on my end, unfortunately. And so we had to postpone it. And we're finally here, though. We made it happen in August. Better late than never. And this is a great example of that. So just want to do a couple of quick things before I bring Zack in. Number one, of course, I will always try to get to all your questions and comments that are coming up in the chat. But just remember, when I have a special guest like this and the volume of chats that come through and the size of the audience, it's not going to be possible to get to everyone's comment or question. All right, just know that up front. But it's not personal at all. It's just how it ends up working out. However, I will say this: if you have a real burning question, a desire to make sure that Zack and I get that question or comment addressed, you do have an opportunity to send in a super chat. And what that will do is move you to the front of the line. I bring you straight up to the front above everybody else. We get you on the screen and we'll talk about it. Don't feel obligated to do it, but you certainly can should you choose to do so. And it also helps support this channel, which is a win-win for everybody, and I appreciate that, all right? So keep that in mind. And speaking of supporting the channel, I would not start a stream off without putting the spotlight on my amazing Cravenites and patrons who support this channel every month through your channel memberships and your patron support. So real quick, before we bring Zack in, I want to put the spotlight on you guys and let you have some recognition that you deserve. So guys, read out these names as they flash on your screen, because these people are making a difference in this channel, and it would not be the same without them. All right, so here we go. All right, thank you guys so much, each one of you. I really appreciate your support. And guys, listen, it is time. Let's not waste any more time. Let's get in here and start an amazing discussion tonight with my friend and an amazing content creator. I know most of you guys know who this is. If you're in the Scream community for any amount of time on YouTube, you know exactly who my guest is. Puts out some of the most amazing content you're ever going to find. Please welcome my bud, the one and only Zack Cherry. What's up, Zack?
Hey, Steven. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you for that glowing review as well.
Of course. I mean it. I'm being sincere. Absolutely fantastic. In fact, as we're getting started right here, thank you, Sarah. Sarah Campbell, one of my mods and a great friend, is going to be putting the links up to Zack's channel. So if for any reason you have not discovered Zack yet, maybe you're new to the Scream world in YouTube right now. If that's the case, be sure and click his websites or his YouTube channels, here, at Zack Cherry, and his podcast channel, The Cherry Picker. Two really great channels, very entertaining. Trust me, when you go to his channel and you watch his content, you're gonna understand. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I found a second home, or a third home, or whatever. However many content creators that you enjoy. But trust me, Zack will be one of them. All right. So please do go and subscribe, show him support, and leave a comment on his videos. Let him know that you came over from Craven Something Scary. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Yeah. So, hey, that would be awesome. And want to say hello again to everyone in the chat. There's over 50 folks here already, so it's no way to call out everybody by name. That would take half hour in and of itself. But I just want you to all know I appreciate you being here, and I see all your names. I'm scrolling through, and it's a real honor and pleasure to you guys to be here tonight. All right. Well, Zach, listen, man, it's been a little bit since we've chatted about Scream. In fact, we haven't even talked to Scream 6 yet. I was saving it for when we got together.
Right.
So now I've seen some of your tweets, of course, because we follow each other on Twitter and social media. And so I have a feeling, I have a pretty good feeling. I know how you feel about Scream 6. But would you just kind of, before we get to 7, let's back up to 6. Tell us your thoughts on it. Yeah.
I'm not a fan. It's actually like I'm comfortable to say now, like, what are we, 6 months out from it? It is my least favorite, and it's probably the one that, I mean, like, because I've always said that Scream is a very consistent franchise just in terms of like the quality of each movie, and I feel like 6 just completely missed the mark. It's not one that I'm probably going to revisit a whole lot. We'll see, like, there's a potentiality for 7 if it does kind of bridge it in a way that stuff that happens in 6 actually carries over. But as it is right now, it just I find it to be very superficial in a way. I guess there's nothing deep about it. I think that if I could say something nice, I'll say that it's very action heavy, and I think that was exciting for like the first time that I saw it. But when you kind of start to strip that away, there's really not a lot to it, and I think that they made a lot of poor decisions with the characters. I think that the killers are terrible. I'm not a huge fan of some of the acting in there too, but I don't like to be all that critical of acting because it's not always the actor's fault. It's the director as well.
True.
But yeah, I think it's a kind of a very poorly written sequel, and it might have to do with the fact that it came out so quickly. Like, as far as I know, they had already written Scream 6 before Scream 5 had even released, because they were dealing with pre-production stuff prior to January 2022. So I think it might have been a case of just kind of like, give it an extra year, or at least like half a year longer, see what the response was to that 5th movie, and just like the tweaks that they could have made. And what's funny is that they did make a lot of changes from 5 to 6 that I did want to see, but I feel like they went the like entirely wrong way. And as one last caveat, I'll just say that this is just my opinion. I know that a lot of people really love Scream 6, and don't let my perspective of it take away how you feel, because that's not what I'm here to do.
That's right. Absolutely. And I would say the same thing about, whatever your Scream film is your least favorite, that's someone's favorite. And any of them, Scream 3, I know folks who 3 is their favorite, 4 is their favorite, 2 is their favorite, 5 is their favorite. I mean, seriously, it's like, and that's the beautiful thing about these movies to me. And I don't ever say which is the best or worst, because I don't think that's good language. I think it's more like, what's your favorite and your least favorite? Because to me, they're all good movies, personally, but they are all very different from each other, right? They have different vibes to them, different feels. Now, the Wes Craven films are pretty consistent in tone, I believe, because it's the master. I mean, come on, it's the legend himself. But there were a lot of things in 6 that you mentioned this, and it's almost like I think they were paying attention to what the fans were saying, maybe even some YouTube creators. And I would not exclude us from this list, Zach, because I think some of the things that were talked about in our community, they did do. Like, one of the biggest things we were shouting about from 5 was, where's the character development? everyone has like 3 scenes or 4 scenes with like 3 lines of dialogue, you can't build characters that way that you really are interested in or care about. You know, they gave more to Tara and Sam, obviously, but even Chad had just a very few little lines. And so, you know, that was one area that I saw improvement in. They spent a lot of time with us seeing them talking, conversing, living, kind of developing those characters. They did that. And there were a lot of firsts, right? There were a lot of firsts. Like we never saw a Ghostface unmask themselves in the opening. That was a shock because I was ready for the title card to come down. Now I see red, you know, and like there's no title card. Wait a second, what's happening? And then he's like, whoa. So I mean, there was a lot of flash, a lot of bang, a lot of big things like the 2 Ghostface attacks at one time. That's something that I've heard in the community we've wanted to see. I've said it many times. And so there were certain things that I said, oh, that was cool. That was good. I think the biggest thing for me, and I'm going to get your thoughts on this, because you mentioned writing, and I've also said I think it could be, you know, to give the benefit of the doubt, the speed, the pace. Studio says, hey, I need final draft by this date, and James and Guy have got to go hustle and get it done. And there are certain parts of the writing that it almost seems like they were going so fast that maybe they missed the fine little details. You know, sometimes going too fast can slow you down. And
yeah, I mean, it's definitely like the nature of the beast currently, with just like the state of Hollywood. And I don't like, it's not fair to put like the onus like completely on the 2 of them, because from what I understood, like I saw an interview with I believe it was Guy Busick, and he had just said what the process is now, where the studios want you to pitch the entire screenplay to them. They don't want to waste time, you know, just having kind of like the general outline of things, because they want to pay as little money as possible for all the work up front. And that's why we don't see a lot of second or third drafts here. And it's just like, you know, when you go back to the Kevin Williamson written ones, or even like Aaron Kruger with Scream 3 and, you know, everything that happened with Scream 4, is that they were constantly, not so much the first movie, because that was pretty much shot as it was written, but the sequels, they, you know, kept changing so many things. Wes Craven would go in and he would make his uncredited rewrites. And it felt like with this, like, because I've read now both the Scream 6 one was just dropped last week, I believe. And I read it and I just felt like I'm reading the exact same thing that I saw on the screen. And I know that was like the shooting script. But with the one that they did from 5, there were like minimal changes. I think mostly it was just like the relationship between Tara and Amber, and then they got rid of the mom altogether, which I think that like getting rid of the mom in 5 was the right choice. And we can talk about her more later, but it just, both the scripts for 5 and 6 just had this feeling about them like they were first drafts. And whether that is because Guy and James were like, this is perfect, we don't need to put any more work into it, or the studio just kind of gave them these like really difficult constraints to work under, of just like, we need the whole script now, and we're not going to pay you any more money to do rewrites, so get it perfect the first time. That might have been the case. And as far as Radio Silence goes, I mean, they're not writers.
No.
It always frustrates me when people will like make a claim to something. It's just like, well, Radio Silence doesn't want to do that, or they didn't want to do, and it's just like, they're the directors. They don't like have ownership over things. Like there are certain things that they can do as directors with a script, but I feel like their style of direction, I think that they're excellent directors technically. Ready or Not is one of my favorite horror movies in the most recent years, but they didn't really do anything with the Scream franchise just in terms of like kind of challenging the writing that came in the same way that Wes Craven would have taken like a script from Kevin Williamson or Aaron Kruger and just been like, no, I think we need to do this, and rewrite full scenes. And Radio Silence, I don't know what really, I can't tell you what was going on in their mind, but you know, it could
Sure.
have either been the fact that they didn't want to step on anyone's toes, or they just kind of like, okay, we're gonna basically translate everything that was on the script to the screen and do that
That's
in the
right.
best way that we possibly could. So
Yes.
that's
Yes.
kind of that's a thing that's like interesting with Christopher Landon coming up, because that might be something different that we could see.
Yes, I'm so excited about that potential with Landon being such a great writer and very, very accomplished writer. He's not just new, he's, like Radio Silence, they were still really young filmmakers, after Radio. I mean, Radio Not was their first kind of major picture, and then Scream, so they were still, in terms of filmmaking, they were still young, not necessarily their ages, but, I'm talking about the filmmaking. But to your point, and Radio Silence, actually, they went out, they made a point to say in interviews that they have no idea what's being written. That Guy and James are completely, they are not any part of those meetings. They're given the script and they take it, like you say, they take it and they put it on the screen. They bring it to life, what's written. And that's pretty much, I think that was the relationship. And so the Christopher Landon, I'm calling him the X Factor, because let me even example. And again, I'm not ragging on Scream 6. I think I know that I like it more than you based on our discussion already.
That's fair.
And that's okay. Yeah, exactly. I mean, but I'll be look, and I've not been bashful to say, Zach, that for me to fully enjoy the movie, like fully, I have to just go with what's there. I have to shut the brain down to an extent, because if I watch it like I watch a Craven movie, I'm going to not enjoy it as much, because, and here's an example, and this is such a simple fix in the writing. It's like, it's so easy. When Bailey is explaining the Quinn faked death, and he's like, you would be surprised how easy it is with prosthetics and some fake blood. And I said, wait, hold on a second. Did he just say fake blood? Like this? No, you don't. Look, this is a forensic CSI team. This is New York City, and this is obviously fake blood is going to be detected. That's like, you're not going to fool anybody with fake. I was honestly shocked when he said that line, and I'm like, who didn't stop and look at that script and say, you know what, guys, why don't we change this to say, get a matching blood type, or just anything else. I would have taken that, but get a blood sample from Quinn and have her actual anything, Zach, but fake blood. I said, that sounds like something a teenager would put in a script, and that frustrated me, and it still does when I hear the line. I just have to ignore it. But see, to your point though, this is what I'm saying with Christopher Landon on board. I know, guys, we're kind of going from 6 to 7, but it's all right. We're going to cover everything. I think Christopher would say, hey, guys, why don't we change this instead of saying fake blood? This is what I'd like to think anyway. And let's say this. Got a sample of Quinn's blood, put her on that would have been at least a little easier to swallow than the fake blood. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Those kind of little things in the script?
I mean, it's just it's hard to, because you're absolutely right. You have to suspend so much disbelief with everything to do with Wayne Bailey being a cop. Like, who are these? Are they the Baileys? Are they the Kirsches? I personally think that they're the Kirsches, and he like, that makes more sense to me that he would go undercover as Bailey. But then it begs the question, like, what is your like police background? Like, clearly the guy has some sort of like tactical training. We can see that in the movie. I think that also there is a nice touch. We see that just like Richie in 5, Quinn also does like the knife flip in her hand. So it's like, he's like, it kind of makes you think even like further back. It's like he's been training these kids to be killers long before anything like that Richie even decided to do what he did. But it's just how it all came together. And I feel like people are so quick to make allowances and just be like, well, he's a cop, he can do anything, like, you know, they can get away with shit. I mean, like, maybe that is a reflection of society, because that is a thing where, you know, cops have gotten away with doing a lot of terrible things. But it's still the level of like just how much we have to stretch to buy that is a bit much. And the whole like how Gale and Kirby would have never found it. Like, I think that it made sense in Scream 2 because nobody was thinking about Mrs. Loomis. She just like disappeared. She ran away from town.
Yeah.
She had a completely different like physical appearance from the last time anyone had seen her. She wasn't even in the periphery of anyone's like thinking of just like what's going on here. Whereas like you have like whatever the book is that Gale wrote, there's clearly the families are going to be investigated. You're going to want to talk to the families. If you're not able to find them or any kind of information about them, like that seems a little suspect.
Right.
And yeah, and the faking of the death, I mean, to the point that you were saying before, is just like Scream 6 had a lot of firsts. And yes, I will credit to that, you know, first like 3 killers all at the same time, 2 on the same screen together. You had the killer unmask themselves, but it was just like they did all these things, like Ghostfaces working independently of one another, but they just kind of like threw them in there just to do them. And I felt like that was kind of the problem for me, because it just like it felt very empty. It was like here's like really good twists that you can throw in there, but then they just kind of were there. Like it feels very perfunctory, just to like, oh well, we can say that we did it. And I mean, to harken back to Scream 5, like I think that like killing Dewey was, I mean, the way that they had incorporated it into the plot, it works well because it kind of set up the final act for Sydney and Gale. But it also felt kind of like empty in a way, because it's just like, especially listening to them in interviews, because they just said at the beginning of like whatever their writing notes were, we have to kill Dewey. We have to kill one of them. We have to kill Dewey. And it wasn't really born out of like this idea that like, here's a really great way that we can kill Dewey, you know, sort of like with Randy and Scream 2. It was just sort of like, bottom line, no exceptions, Dewey is going to die in this movie, and we have to figure out how we're going to make that work here. And because of that, like it does feel kind of wasteful. I think that they could have saved that if they were going to kill him off for just a better through line of, you know, where things would go with the character. Because I think that with the trio especially, they were so secondary in that movie, and even like
they really were.
6, that it just like, I would have rather they saved Dewey's death for a movie where the 3 of them were more prominent and were the stars of the show. So if to I guess show my hand too soon of just things that I would want to see in Scream 7, I think that the smart thing to do at this point is to continue with the Sam Carpenter storyline. Like, she should be front and center. I don't think that Sydney should be in this movie at all. And that's not to say that I don't want to see her again, but I think that for this, if this is like a trilogy and this is the final chapter here, it would feel very jarring that Sydney was just like in the first one for a little bit, completely absent from the second chapter, and then like showed up again in the third one. It's just like, it doesn't have the same resonance as like the original trilogy, where we were following her story, and her presence on screen also would take away from Sam. And I think that it's really important that we focus on Sam and her friends going through this.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Scream 7 and where things are going, we got a couple super chats have come in, and Oliver sent in $5 super chat for the channel. Thank you, Oliver. And this is kind of touching on this. It says, good evening, Stephen and Zach. I hope you're doing well, Stephen. Thank you. And Zach, do you think Stu and Sydney will be back in Scream 7? Well, we kind of got half of the answer, but go ahead.
Yeah, I forgot you're a huge Stu
Oh
truther
yes,
over here.
conductor on the stew train. Yes.
Yeah, I think that like I don't think that Stu's alive.
Okay.
But I think that if that was to happen, I'm not saying that it's not like it wouldn't be entertaining or that it wouldn't be like wild. But I think that especially after 6, like it might be better to like be more grounded and down to earth with whatever the story is, just more realistic. If Stu ever was to come back, like it would have to be in a movie that Sydney is in, because
Right.
nobody like none of these characters know who Stu is. They don't have that relationship to him. Like Gail is the only one who has met him, like providing the Gail comes back, and she met him for like 2 seconds. She wrote a book about him, but she doesn't have that same relationship with him that like if Stu came back, it's just like, oh my God, like Stu, like Dewey would at least know him. And I think that there would be some resentment there, because it's just like, you dated my sister and you were instrumental in killing her if you weren't the one who actually did kill her. I think it was Billy. But the thing is, like, for Stu to come back, like, I don't think that it would, like, hypothetically, if he was there, I think it would be best to present him as a like Cotton Weary type figure. And again, this is so unrealistic, because if he is alive, he's, you know, serving multiple life sentences, but for whatever reason, he is not in jail anymore or whatever. That would be, I think, the best opportunity to have him come back and just be this suspicious figure that's looming around, and there's murders happening and everyone's looking at him and he's just like, don't look at me, I'm reformed or whatever. That is like if he were to actually physically be in it. But I think that the best thing that they can do is like have him come back spiritually, and I don't mean like a hallucination, but I think that Guy and James have done like really good work setting, like planting seeds in these movies that they've done, and they haven't like brought any of these to their full potential. And like they've established characters like Leslie Macher as the sister of Stu Macher, have her show up in it. Like that would be a really interesting thing. Even Christina Carpenter to like come in. These are characters who are directly affiliated with past killers. They know more about these characters. Like if you want to like reveal like some twist or something that we didn't know about, you have these two people specifically. One is the sister of like the original killer, and one is the side girlfriend of the original killer. Like maybe they could have been involved in it, like not in a level that we think, but to an extent where just like, I don't want anyone to find out, you know, they might have been complicit, but not actually. And that might be like a fun thing for like Christina Carpenter, because she's clearly like, she's divorced herself of anything to do with like Billy, to the point where she doesn't talk to Sam. She might have some like residual guilt for, you know, for being involved in something. Maybe, and this is like wild, but just like throwing it out as a speculation, maybe she was the Ghostface in the bathroom who attacked Sydney, or just like jumped out at her.
Definitely. And you know, I do agree with your point about you get the most bang for your buck, if you will, if Stu comes back, if he was to come back in a movie that Sydney's there, so that you can have one more showdown. And you know, at that point, Sydney and Sam would clearly, like he would die in such a way. I mean, head be flying off, decapitated. There'd be something like crazy killing of him at the end. but you know, and I'm not gonna, you know, we won't spend a lot of time on Stu because there's so many things to talk about. But I will just mention this. One of the things that I consider a motive for Stu, because I am a Stu truther and I don't shy away from that on the channel. But the thing is, what I find interesting, and people often ask me, like, well, why would he come back now? You know, after all these years, what's his motive, for goodness sake? And so that's a fair question. And one of the things that I think is interesting is the fact that he now knows that Billy had a daughter, right? Sam Carpenter is a Sam Lewis, in her blood. And so I always thought it was interesting if he was gonna come back the way I would probably write it. And again, this is just one idea, but it would be something like this, Zach. Like he comes in and infiltrates Sam's life because, like to your point, these core four don't know Stu. They don't know, what he looks like now. He's not the 17-year-old kid anymore. So, what I'm thinking is he infiltrates Sam's life because he wants to reconnect, have that Loomis connection he had with Billy, and he hasn't had it since then. And so, the closest he can get to Billy is his daughter. So my thought was, have Sam working at a coffee shop or a bar, somewhere where people go and sit down for a while, have a drink every day or something. And Stu becomes a regular customer, gets to know her. They start to talk, and he's not interested romantically. What he was trying to do is get her to join him to kill again, like he did with her father. And the whole time he stays away from everybody else. Gail never sees him, and she just talks about him like with her friends. Yeah, I met this really nice guy, and he's cool, fun to talk to, whatever, the charismatic side of him. And then basically fast forward to the end of the movie, he finally reveals himself to Sam, who he really is. Your father and I did all this together, and I want us to resume the work we did. Something like this, to this effect. And of course, she would say no, and there would be this big showdown. But I don't know. I just think that's an interesting idea because I like it, Zach, because you and I, as an audience, would know Stu was there from this beginning of the movie, but no one else does. But we don't have to wait to the third act to see a mask come off. And of course, he would have accomplices in the friend group. That keeps the mystery elements. There are people involved. We have to figure out who they are. So that's just an idea that I've had for a while that I think could be interesting to see. And you could do that without Sidney. You could. But again, we all want to see Sidney. And if you're going to bring him back, we want to see Sidney there. I agree. But great question, Oliver. And this is a great example. And I think it's important to say this, man, because if you go on and I don't go to Reddit, I refuse to go to Reddit. I have a friend of mine here on the channel. He goes to Reddit for me, and he's like, if he sees anything interesting, he'll let me know. But it's so toxic over there. And when the subject of Stu Macher comes up, it just seems to hit a nerve with some folks, and they get so mean and so ugly, and it's ridiculous. I'm like, dude, this is a movie. It's a fictional character, and we're just talking about ideas, But I wanted to just tell the audience, for everyone that's here, Zach and I are on opposite ends of the spectrum about Stu. But you know what? It's okay. Like, I respect Zach's opinion, and I listen to him, and he makes good points. And I think he feels the same with me. I think he respects my position and listens. And this is what it's supposed to be, guys. It's not an issue that you cause problems about. This is the way you sit down and just gently and friendly talk about stuff, because it's just preferences.
Life is way too short to get riled up about something you saw on the internet.
Yes.
And that's something that I have to work through as well, because sometimes I see shit of just people responding to my stuff, and I'm just like,
right.
Oh my God. I want to get on the keyboard and type stuff, but most of the time it's not even worth it, because you could throw all the logic back and it goes over people's heads. But I mean, there's the thing is, you can disagree and you can argue your point. I think that it's very important that we as a fandom do express ourselves and express what we like and why we like it. And that shouldn't be seen as negativity or not being able to take criticism. the thing that is not like taking criticism well is when you like personally attack someone or make it about them or just get like really nasty. And there's like, I mean, I don't even know, like I've barely ever gone on Reddit. I saw that there was like a post, is that what you call it? A post about myself the other day. And I was just like looking at it. I'm just like, oh, this is actually like mostly nice.
Good.
But I, whatever. But yeah, like Twitter, there's like a small army of people who have like taken it upon themselves to just like jump on anything, any sort of like thing I come up with or post.
Wow.
They're just weird. It's just I would never, like, we as people, like, we don't interact like that with other people when we see them in real life. So it's just weird.
Nope.
Like, why do you reserve this like behavior for the internet? It's just like it's like the mask comes off and this is like who people really are. So I don't know. It's
true, man.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I could delete Twitter and I would be happy, but I do get a lot of entertainment out of it, and there's a lot of people who post fun things and bring up interesting ideas about the franchise that, you know, I had never considered myself. And even if I don't agree with them, it's just like, okay, that's a very interesting thing too. Like everything that you just said to me with your idea about Stu, like I don't agree with it at all. There is something about it that I did like that you said that I think could be worked into it. But you know, it's just the nature of it. Like we don't have to get to that like level of abuse where it's just like it's your side and it's my side. And I feel like I saw that a lot with like the Halloween franchise. And I was just good thing that we're like on the Scream side of things. And then as soon as 5 and 6 came out, it's like, oh, never mind. It's all encompassing. It's everything.
It is. It is, man. It's like every franchise, I guarantee it, that has multiple movies in it. And you know, and like you say, something about somebody behind a keyboard and anonymity, and they just feel like they can say whatever they want. And you're right. Like come over, like let's meet and talk in person. You know, that conversation is going to be different 9 out of 10 times. It's just it's that feeling of whatever. And it's a shame. And I think it's some of it, I think is really is a maturity thing too. I really do. I believe, you know, now that listen, there's 50-year-olds that are still 18. If you didn't know any better, right? Like, but I mean, whatever it is, you said it good. You said it the best, man. You know, it's about respect, man. And that's the thing. I know, you know, you don't tolerate tomfoolery on your channel and your comments either. And we don't hear either. My mods all know if people start getting ugly and rude, they're gone. I don't need that. That's not what we're going to do here. You know?
Yeah. I mean, like I'm super immature for my age. I completely own that. And I love that. It keeps me young. But
that's all right.
When it comes to disrespect and stuff like that, like that, I have like zero tolerance for that. But you know, and it kind of makes me think of like Scream 5 again, and just in terms of like what they were doing thematically with that, because it's all about toxic fandom. And I feel that the people have misinterpreted what toxic fandom is in a way. And it's funny because the people who are toxic kind of come at it like, oh, you have an opinion about something, or you didn't like that movie, that makes you the toxic fan. And it's like, no, I think like the toxic fandom is actually the dissension that comes from there. And I feel like there was a really missed opportunity with Amber and Richie that I think would have worked out, like played into the movie really well, is if during their monologue they said the first Stab movie is the best but the rest sucked, or whatever. And then Richie could have been like, except I really did like Stab 3. And then Amber could have been like, well, what do you mean? Stab 4 is the best one. And then they could have like started arguing about that.
Yep.
And then that's when like Sydney could have went for the knife, and they could have been like, no, bitch, or, you know, just like,
right.
at that point, just so that they're still aware.
Sure.
But like that could have been the opportunity, and it would have been a better way to convey that message of what this toxic fandom is, because the debate about like what is the best sequel is like one of the biggest points of contention that like people will get into these huge battles over.
Oh yeah, it's insane. Like sometimes I'll do ranking streams or where I'll say, hey guys, give me your Scream rankings in the chat, and everyone, and they're all so different. And that's what I look at that and it makes me smile, because that means that all of these movies connected with people in different ways. So what maybe one, like for me, my favorite sequel, Scream 4. That's my number one sequel after the first movie. And then someone else will say, yeah, but Scream 2 or Scream 3 or 5, and whatever. And I'm like, and here's the beautiful thing, Zach, is everybody's right, because it's how their preferences set and they connected with the characters in one movie more than the other, or there could be a million reasons. But I think it's amazing that we have a franchise that we love in Scream, and it's my favorite franchise of any film series, and that all of these movies, everyone can have their own favorites, and we don't have to agree. And if you say, man, I think Scream 4 is toilet trash, but I'd much rather see Scream 2. I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. You know what? You're right, because that's what you enjoy. Like, I'm right. We're all right. There's no wrong answer.
Or we're all wrong. Like, it's just like either side of the coin. It's about
That's
love.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
To
there
quote
you go.
the movie.
Yes.
But it's true. It's just like you have a shared love of something. Like that should be the thing that unites everyone.
It should, man.
But it is what it is at this point. Like it
is, man.
It's unavoidable, and I think it's par for the course at this point. A new movie comes out and like things are gonna get like crazier. Like we only had the 4 movies to rank for the longest time, and I think that the consistency was like pretty much there, that most people agreed on it. But it's just like you add 2 more movies into the mix, like the permutations of like different rankings increases like by so many. Like there's 13 Halloween movies at this point. Right. In like the last 5 years, with each new one that was added on, like that adds like millions of different combinations of these movies that could be in a person's ranking. Like nobody is going to have the same ranking ever.
No.
Like if you meet someone that has the same ranking as you, get married to them. I don't know what to say. Like that's your soulmate.
Yes, you guys have a lot in common. That's a great starting point.
With 13 Halloween movies and exact same ranking. Yeah.
And all multiple timelines too, Zach.
Yeah. But then again, like my rankings always change with things like that. So maybe don't marry that person. That was a little too impulsive.
Maybe just date. Start dating first before you get married.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to give a shout out to Nick Meese, guys. If you don't know who Nick is, I know Zach knows who that is. Nick Meese runs the ScreamTrilogy.com website, the longest running Scream website on the internet. So, Nick, it's really nice to have you in the chat tonight. And I guess I'll go ahead and let you guys in on a little secret. Nick is coming to visit the channel next month. So stay tuned. He's going to come on. We're going to talk franchise history of Scream. It's going to be an amazing conversation. So you guys don't want to miss it. But Nick, I'm glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by. Make yourself at home, my friend. Great to see you. Awesome. There you go, buddy. Thank you, man. It's awesome. Very cool. And if you guys haven't seen Scream-Trilogy.com, man, come on, man. You guys, let's get with the program. You got to go check out the site. It's incredible. So do go spend some time there. Maybe my moderators, maybe Sarah, Katie, if one of you would put a link to Scream Trilogy in the chat, I'd appreciate that. All right. And so thanks again to Oliver for your super chat and supporting the channel. It's much appreciated, buddy. We got a couple more super chats. And as I promised you, you guys move to the front of the line before we go to other questions. Talking Star Wars is talking Scream tonight with a $5 super chat. Thank you, buddy. And this was for Zack. So, Zack, who do you think out of the core four will be an opening kill if they kill off a core four?
I don't think that they will. But if they do, I think... I want to say Tara.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like, moving forward with Sam, like how that would kind of like reflect on the rest of the movie. Like that would, like, she would be really pissed off for sure. And that might make for an interesting chapter.
Yes.
But at the same time, I feel like I have an interesting relationship with Tara, because I feel like there's a lot more that they could do with her. I don't think that they've done enough with her, but I don't know. I mean, I would say none of them, but if it had to be someone, I would say Tara. Yeah.
Tara. It makes sense. And it's funny, Zach, I just posted a video 4 hours ago, like something like that. Yeah. Like 6:30. And I'm talking about Tara. And I'm like, will Jenna be back? And I won't give away everything in the video, and you guys can go watch it. But at the end of it, but one part of that video is I talk about that. I'm like, because I break down her shooting schedule and what she's doing, and based on IMDb. And one of the things where, I think we're in real serious jeopardy of her not coming back because of her commitments. Especially with now knowing from Production Weekly that Scream 7 is scheduled to film Q1, wrapping by the 19th of April. And so they're wanting to hit the floor running when this strike ends. And you've got Beetlejuice still in production. Wednesday hasn't started yet. And they're all chomping at the bit to get their stuff done. So my concern is that we're going to find ourselves where she's contracted already with those two. She has to go to work. And Scream 7's the odd man out. And I just, here was my thing in the video I want to get your thought on. And it ties into your thought of being the opening kill. I think you do this. If it's impossible to get her back for the whole movie, then I think you find a break in her schedule during those 9 weeks of filming, and you bring her in for 2 days, 3 days tops, and you make her the opening kill. We just kill her in the beginning. And I mentioned the same thing you did. I think the story could be very interesting because Sam, being the helicopter or umbrella sister, will blow a gasket that she couldn't protect her sister. Yeah. And she will have revenge on her mind. And look at her. And Zach, my favorite kill in Scream 5 was Sam with killing Richie, and 6 was her killing Bailey. And could you imagine her being fueled with the anger and the vengeance to avenge her sister, what those kills would look like? Oh my gosh. That to me is appealing.
Yeah. Fair enough.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. I look at it more like Scream 3, because Neve Campbell had a lot of scheduling conflicts when they did that movie as well. And they brought her in for 20 days. She filmed all of her stuff over just under 3 weeks. And with her in that movie, and I shout out to Ryan C. Showers, who has shone the light on everything to do with Sydney in Scream 3 and Screen Times, is that she actually is in the movie more than anyone else. It's just the perception of that is very uneven, just because she's very like back heavy in the movie. She's not in the front a whole lot. And her scenes are mostly isolated away from the other characters. So I could potentially see like Jenna Ortega coming in and having a lot to do in the movie, but being just kind of like have her own storyline. And I actually think that would be ideal. I think moving forward, I don't want to see Sam and Tara attached at the hip again. I find that to be incredibly boring. It's just like it's almost like it's just Sam and Tara is the tag along, and she adds like a little bit here and there. She's Jenna Ortega, like she's amazing at everything that she does. She can enhance that, like what little she has to do. But I think that the better thing at this point would kind of like have a setup like they did with Scream 2, where you have one storyline is Sam's, the other storyline is Tara's, and then they kind of converge by the end. They come back together in the climax of the movie. Because at this point, I don't know anything about Tara. I don't like the most I feel that we've learned of her as a character was in her 10-minute scene in the opening of Scream 5. And then the rest of the movie happens. She's in it here and there. She has like the scenes with Sam and we get glimpses of her relationship. But then in 6, I feel like her character is entirely defined by her sister. And then to a certain extent to her relationship with Chad, which I'm kind of frustrated with that. I know that you said that there's a lot of character development in 6. I don't necessarily agree because I feel that relationship felt very forced to me. They had no screen time together in Scream 5 at all. They were in one scene where I don't even think they were in the same frame at the same time when we first see her in the hospital. That I think like if their trajectory with these characters was to have them end up in a relationship, such as like a Gale and Dewey, I would have liked a little bit more of like a history building with them, because it was just sort of like, let's like hit the ground running in 6, and now all of a sudden they're canoodling, like they're interested in each other. And my fear is that like going into 7, where does that leave them? Like are they going to be like fully committed to each other? Have they broken up at that point? Who knows how far into the future is? Like, are they going to do like this? Like, will they or won't they? Of like Gale and Dewey throughout several of the movies, and I'm not really interested in seeing that because, like, at least with Gale and Dewey, there was like meaning to it. Like, Gale wrote the book and like said those things about him. They tried to make it work in Woodsboro between 2 and 3, and that didn't work. Where it's just like there's not really like any tension between Chad and Tara. Like, it's kind of a boring relationship because it is, I mean, if you can call it a relationship, because they just like get along, like they just like each other, they're friends. So that's something I don't even know where I would see or put those two in 7, because it's just kind of like, what do we do? Like, where do we go from here? But I don't want to see Tara just kind of like following Sam around. Like, if Scream 6 was all about getting everyone together and every scene was like the entire crew just like moving through the city, I want 7 to be everyone separated. I want them to like pair up characters that we would never see pair up. Like, I want to see like Gale and Chad pair up together in like in scenes, because that's like, you would never, I don't even think they've had any scenes together, but that would be such a wild interaction. And it's just like the fact that like he's kind of like this Dewey proxy, it would also be an interesting way for her to like, it's just a very nuanced way for her to kind of explore the loss of her best friend and ex-husband through this other character who reminds her of Dewey. Not that they would be romantically involved, but it's just like, here's someone that we're working together solving this mystery. And it's like, I like you. I trust you more than any of these other people. Like, there's something about you that like, we just connect. We're friends, and we would have never expected it. Like, that's fun to just like have these people who are just completely like diametrically different from one another and put them in scenes together.
Yeah, no, it definitely would. And of course, who knows with Tara, and we, like you say, we don't know what the time difference or the length of time between 6 and 7. Are they going to time jump 2 years? Or are they going to do, 6 months? And if they choose to keep this Tara and Chad thing going, heck, they could be married. I mean, we could start off with 7, 2 years in the future, and they're married. I mean, anything's possible at this point. Because they can always say, over the 2-year break, a lot can happen. You know,
One
I
to
mean,
two, like Scream 1 to 2, that was a 2-year gap.
it was
And that was like came out less than a year later. So if this is coming out
true.
2 years or a year and a half, they could say, oh, 4 years have gone by.
Good.
Like they
You
pick up
could.
any conceivable number. Like you don't know how much time has passed in this time frame. Like it's like these movies are not in real time.
Right.
Unfortunately, I like the creatives don't even know what year they are setting. That was another thing in Scream 6 where there was just like the continuity of the timeline was out the window. But
It was.
it's so who knows? Like they might benefit from having a time jump, just like, you know, taking it 5 years in the future. Who knows with whatever story that they're telling. That's
true. All right, talking Star Wars. Thank you so much. And I will let you know as far as the core four. I think if as Zack mentioned, there's no guarantee any of them are going to die because it seems like they really have defied all types of death-defying stabs and injuries already. So I mean, let's be honest. Stu Macher surviving right now seems more plausible than ever when you've got Chad getting 17 stab wounds to the upper torso on each side, puncturing lungs, busting through organs. All right. You know, Mindy got gutted and she's running around with bandages on in the same day. So my point is, if we're going to accept all of this as a fandom, then it's not so crazy to think a guy that got stabbed just 4 times, not 24 times like Chad, 4 times, had a TV thrown from only 3 to 4 feet. It's not from an upper stairs balcony. 3 to 4 feet. Look how short. Look how that is not very far. I mean, look around your house. 3 to 4 feet, table, stand, whatever. That's all it was. And he has his hands braced up on top of that. And it's so funny. And again, not to go back to Stu, but it just the reason I'm bringing this up is if they have raised the bar or lowered the bar, whichever way you want to say it, so much, Zack, on what it takes to survive. Like you can look back at any of these past characters that weren't double tapped, and you could make an argument. Based on the new rules, you could make an argument they could be alive.
I mean, I don't give a lot of credence to the new rules. I think that scene in particular was just it felt so pointless. Like it was just a retread of 5 and just like trying to implement a theme of franchises. Because I mean, as far as any of us are concerned or have been concerned, Scream has been a franchise since Scream 2. Or even Scream 3, if 2 movies is too little to you. So it's weird that they're, you know, Mindy would just be like, we're in a franchise now. And it's like, we've been a franchise for 25 years. There's a television series. Like you are way like far behind with everything here. So, I mean, I understand your enthusiasm for this. I just like what I would want is for 7 to, like I said, ground things a little bit more. I don't want these like these huge like near-death experiences where people are like brutalized to the point where they should be dead 5 times over just to kind of be revealed that no, in the Scream universe, there is no like realistic outcome for something like this. That you know, people should die from, you know, I don't even want to call it minor injuries because like 6 went so overboard with the intensity. But I think that there's definitely we need to bring things down to earth. And I hope that they're more careful with like continuity as well, because like it's funny that you mentioned Chad. Tara, who got stabbed in the hand in the opening of 5, she had a scar, and they were even in the commentary pointed that out, or just like, oh, I like that touch of like the scar. Meanwhile, you have Mason Gooding, who's like full on shirtless in this like the first scene that we meet him in, and he has nary a scar on his body after being stabbed by Amber, like at least 7 or 8 times.
I think 7 was the total. Yeah,
that's right. So it's just like I wish that they were more mindful of like everything going on there. I don't know what happened with that. There's even like high res pictures behind the scenes, that because people have argued that, oh, it's there, you just can't see it because it's dark. But if you look at the picture, nothing, like you wouldn't even know. So I mean,
yikes!
I just want them to be more mindful of that. I know that, you know, Sydney was stabbed in the shoulder in the first one, and apparently she doesn't have a scar from there. But I mean, like, still, it's one stab compared to several. That I just want more attention to detail, like just things that would absolutely be mindful to Wes Craven. And I know not everyone is Wes Craven, not every filmmaker is Wes Craven, but these are, you know, you have a whole team of people. It's not just the director. There's like other creatives involved. There's hundreds of people that work on these movies that nobody would just be like, no, like put a shirt on him. Maybe people are just like, yeah, like we want to see him without a shirt. Maybe that they were just too mesmerized by his body, but it's the fact that nobody on set was just kind of like, well, what about, like, wouldn't he have some sort of scarring? So if
it's true,
just bring it back down to earth. Like have the kills be realistic. And I mean, let us know that like this has affected them, that they've gone through the ringer, that this is not just like a paper cut, that they're actually wounded. Like Dewey is like permanently like had nerve damage and a limp for like the remainder of his tenure in the franchise. Not that I want to see like Chad in a wheelchair or anything like that, but like just the scars of the past are they're important. We need to know that these characters have suffered.
That's right. Talking Star Wars, thank you for that super chat for the channel. Thank you. A great question. Yes, that was awesome. And I do want to mention also, guys, if you happen to be new here tonight, if you followed over or with Zack to come check out the stream tonight, and maybe this is your first time visiting, I would, and you're having a good time, I would love it if you would smash that subscribe button. I like to talk Scream here. I do about 3 live streams a week. Thanks, Zack. 3 times a week. I do streams. I do videos pretty much daily. So if you're into Scream, this is a great place to hang out. And I got a great community here in the chat. You'll love it. You'll fit right in. It's a very respectful channel. We respect everyone's opinions. And as long as you are respectful to each other, your opinions can be voiced all day long, and we will celebrate that. So this is a great place for that. So anyway, welcome to the channel if you're new here and visiting tonight. And I hope you enjoy the conversation and stick around. We'd love to see you again. All right. We got some more super chats that have come through. So we're going to, and again, I promise super chats move it to the front of the line. So if you're wondering, man, why isn't he getting to my question? Well, because part of the things of doing a super chat is you get to move ahead. So it's just, that's the reason why. All right. Stu Boys. What's up, Eric? Over at Two Boys and the Scary Pops. Thanks for your $2 support of the channel, buddy. So this is definitely directed, I think, well, actually, probably to both of us, because it's not my favorite either. With 6 not being a favorite, how did they win you back? Well, Zack, why don't we start with you? That's a great question. If Guy and James said, hey, Zack, we want to win you back, man. I know you've already shared some of it, I think, already, but how would you talk to them about that?
I mean, I think that the mystery absolutely is the thing that like really needs to be fine-tuned here, because I don't think that 5 or 6 we're really too concerned about that. Little like changes that they could make, for instance, like I already talked about the rules scene that they, you know, Mindy had in the park. That just doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense that you have these characters who survived this and like know that like sometimes like if we do have a friend group, there are people who are going to be the killers in this. Why would you get up on your soapbox in front of those people and basically tell them, like, just give them intel, let them know all of the information that you know, so they now know that as well. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. What I would hope for, and I think is more appropriate and would probably be like a nice callback to Scream 2, is if that conversation in 7 is just between Chad and Mindy. I want to like have them go for ice
Mm.
cream and then just talk and like even like call attention to like, I made the mistake last time of like talking about this in front of the killers. This
That's
time
right.
it's just you and me. And we've never seen, that's another situation where we've never really seen those characters interact just one-on-one. Like we had like the little bits in the party at 5. But I think that would be a really good scene. Like, I don't know these relationships of the core 4 individually. We don't really get to see them other than Sam and Tara and Chad. So I think that would be fun. There's a lot that they need to address. I think that the biggest thing for me is they need to figure out, unless they've already figured it out and they're planning to in this third movie, but like the Sam Billy Loomis storyline needs a lot of work. And this is something that I think like you could possibly look at and say that they're setting up for 7, but at the same time, like it's very inconsistent in Scream 6 of just sort of like the way it starts of her in therapy and just saying like, there's this darkness inside of me. And it's just like, I did this thing and it felt right. And then there's these moments throughout the movie where she's kind of like connecting with when she puts her hand on the glass case with her father's robe in it, and Tara comes in and she's just like, Sam, what are you doing? And then there's another moment like that, like at the end where she's about to kill Bailey and Tara comes out and she's just like, looks at her like, what the fuck? And then even at the very end when she's just like, Sam, are you coming? And she throws down the mask. And I feel like people are confused about that. Like I'm confused about that because the way that I read things with Sam in 6 is that it's not over. Like it's not over by a long shot. Whereas people interpret the throwing of the mask down that she's like, okay, she's given it up. She's moving past her father. And like, first of all, I think that like, I don't buy that. But if they are if that was their intention, I don't like that because I think that there's so much more to explore there. They like really, if 5 and 6 were kind of more about Sam acknowledging her connection to Billy, or at least kind of like embracing it in a certain way, just putting on the mask. I think that Scream 7 should be about her looking into her past, like, having questions, wanting to know stuff. And that's a good way to bring the mother in, Christina Carpenter, because Christina is the only person that would probably have those answers that is not Sidney Prescott. And I don't think that Sidney would even want to talk about Billy, but here's someone, it's just like, I want to know about my father. Obviously I had like this darkness in her did not just go away at the end of 6. If anything, I feel that the way that she killed Bailey at the end of 6 presents more problems than anything, because you can look at that, and I know a lot of people have, and they're just sort of like, oh yeah, like Slay Queen or whatever they think about that. It's just like a badass moment of Sam, killing the killer. And this is where I think things need to get more grounded. It's just like, if you look at that, that is voluntary manslaughter. That is not self-defense.
That is no.
People have like raked me over the coals for bringing this up on Twitter, but this is the reality of the situation. And I'm not saying that Scream 7 needs to be a courtroom drama. I don't think that's not even what I'm suggesting here. If anything, that I think that it's appropriate that the authorities or whoever just kind of like chalked it up to self-defense, or if that's where they went with. But like the fact of the matter is that she put on a mask, she put on a robe, she went beyond what's reasonable for self-defense. She called him, she picked up the phone, she called him. Well, the FBI agent who was the authority on the scene is like bleeding out somewhere else. Like what she did was not in any reality self-defense. And that's why like I don't like when people like are just like, it's just a movie, because like Cotton Weary at the end of Scream 2, when it's him and Sydney and Gail, the first thing he says is like, I think we should all get our stories straight before, the cops or the reporters come in. And they're just like, shut up, Cotton, like whatever. but he's been to jail. He knows their shit. So you can't say that there's no realistic way that that's how these movies end, because it's already been canonized that people have wrongly gone to prison for murders and stuff. So when it comes to Sam doing that, I think that there's a lot of like there's a good entry point into like what that has done to her and her relationship with Tara, because Tara kind of comes in there and she looks at Sam and it's almost like she encourages, like she eggs her on to do it, because Sam's like, I'm not a killer. And then Tara's like, gives her that look.
Go ahead.
Yeah. And she's like, but you fucked with my family, and stabs him in the eye and kills him. And the thing is, and this is what I suggested as a potential storyline for 7. And a lot of people liked it. And then a lot of people were just, they're like, that would never happen. That's terrible. But I said that Sam, it should be her turn to write a book. And I think people didn't like that because they were just like, Sam would never write a book. I disagree personally, because I feel that like after the events of 6, Sam has something to prove. She wants to prove to people that she is not this terrible murderess who she's been wrongly accused of because of Gail mislabeling her in her book by saying that she's unstable and a born killer and all the problems it caused for her. Sam is not afraid of like the fame or anything. Like we're beyond that. She's already a public figure. She was living in New York City. Like she's not hiding from anyone. It would behoove her to, even if it's not a book, for her to have done like the Diane Sawyer interview that, happened between Scream 2 and 3, just like to get her story out there. And I think that that's a really good opportunity for her. Like, if she's telling her story, what is she going to tell the public? That she put on the mask and the robe and called Bailey and then like murdered him beyond the point that is self-defense? No, she would say he tried to kill me and I fought. Like she would have to lie. And that would be a point of contention with her and Tara, because it's just like, you lied. Like you're like for justifiable reasons, because, she didn't want to face any criminal charges about it. But it's just like, it's something to create actual good tension between the sisters, that it's just like, regardless of that, like you were there with me and you gave the thumbs up to do it, essentially.
She did.
And that to me, like the tension between them in 6 of just like, you have to let me go. I felt that was very shallow. I think it was just like, it was totally set up just to be this thing at the end where she let her go. I don't think that that's good writing at all. Whereas like something like this is like an actual like pre-established thing that will cause a rift in them. And not that like I want to see these two sisters like constantly at odds, but to have that happen, that's a good opportunity to separate them in this new movie and have their own storylines. And I think the fact that if that was the case and Sam was forced to lie because she didn't kill this guy in self-defense, the new killer, whoever it may be, rather than like coming after Sam and the core 4, maybe this is a killer who, and this is something that you said when you brought up Stu, maybe this is a killer who actually wants to work with her and is just like, and recognizes the darkness that Sam sees in herself and is like going to be that person that's like trying to get her to come out of her shell while they're killing other people that are not associated with the before. And it's like the first time, like we've seen these movies, the killer is always coming after these survivors. Now, like, let's flip the script. Let's have it so they don't have anything to do with it, but it's sort of like, here's this thing of just like Sam being tempted into like to come into the fold and embrace that, and especially if she's wanting to understand more of her history and who Billy is. Like, to me, that's the natural course of where things could go in the 7th movie. That's the only way that, without like getting gimmicky and just being like, look, it's snowing now, or we're in London and everything's British. Like, it's just like to actually do something that is thematically different. Like that's how I think that whatever they do should play out.
That's interesting, man. I like that idea, actually. It's really good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's good. I wish you were one of the writers. I tell you, man.
I,
Uh,
I would
I mean,
take it. I would take a pay cut just to
yeah,
have the opportunity to work on it. But it sounds like if they're already planning to film this in the first quarter of 2024, to me that either says that they've written this script and they've already had it written. Like maybe they had it written before 6 even went into like filming.
right. It's
which,
possible.
Which is, I don't love that unless like they had a planned out trajectory. Or the other possibility is that they're banking on this strike to be over very soon, which then just gives them this limited window to write this story, which also doesn't bode well for me because it's just like it's not getting the proper time that it needs to be developed. So I mean, everyone's guess is as good as mine as to what is going to happen here, but whether it's been written or it hasn't. But I don't know. I personally, I don't have a lot of faith in them. But that's
I know. I understand. I mean, there's reasons for that. You spelled it out, so you're not just pulling something out of the air here. You definitely given a lot of thought. And Two Boys, thanks for your super chat, my friend. And it is Wes Craven month here on the channel because he was born in August and passed away in August. And so every August I do tons of watch parties. We're doing Hills Have Eyes Wednesday night. We're watching his first film, Last House on the Left, Friday morning. We've watched Serpent and the Rainbow, Deadly Blessing. We've watched Deadly Friend this month. Just going through a lot of the more of the perhaps lesser known, lesser viewed Wes Craven movies, not the big ones like Scream and Nightmare and a lot of the other ones. So one thing I want to do here for normally after when we get a super chat, I'll play a clip after each super chat. Usually something silly, make you laugh, make you smile. But I want to do a clip here because I know Zack has incredible respect for Wes Craven, as do I, and I imagine most everyone in this chat right now. So here's a clip I'd like to play just real quick for all the super chats we've gotten thus far. I'm going to roll it up into this one clip. And you guys, I'll let Wes just say the words from himself. So here we go, guys. Wes Craven.
Do you have limits to what you would show on the screen?
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
I won't show stupidity, lack of imagination, disrespect for the audience. Something that somebody else has already done better.
In terms of brutal violence, you've done some of the most memorable violent scenes in horror films.
I think I have tended not to do that kind of thing again and again. I think the first 2 movies I made, certainly Last House the most, and then Hills of Ice also. But after that, got a little bit more abstract. But I think that it's valid to make those movies in your early career, and I don't think there's ever a reason to be merciful towards your audience. I mean, they want you to grab them by the throat and keep them there for an hour and a half or whatever. But you're always following your own inner guidelines. I mean, there are no rules for making these films. There's no laws among ourselves, as fellow genre filmmakers, horror filmmakers. One guy will make a film that somebody else might look at and say, that's really, that's despicable.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen it.
And I have a hard time watching some horror films, the hostile genre.
Gorenography or torture porn.
Torture porn. I just have a hard time with it, but I must say I forced myself to see Hostel, and I remember saying, I just don't want to watch people being tortured, but the film didn't just do that. It had some very interesting character things, some great action things, and a good director, a good storyteller will not just do that. And I think if somebody just does that, then they are doing it as some sort of a violence porn or whatever. And I think a good horror director is talking about, the primal fears, and if you want to be honest about talking about those things, you have to get down to the nitty-gritty about fear and things people do to each other.
Hashtag for Wes, man. Rest in peace. That's, man, the master.
And such a great response to that question too. It was so catty. I love it.
Yes. I know. Wes was just, just brilliant.
He knew, he knew how to stir the pot.
Yes, he did. And he would do it in such a gentle way. And it's like, you're almost like, it can go over your head because his delivery is so humble and gentle, and with such wisdom, Zach. Just brilliant, man.
Like if anyone else said that, like it would come off like very passive aggressively, but he's just like
exactly
fine-tuned it so perfectly that it's just like I am literally insulting like all these directors and filmmakers, but it's like at the same time it's just like I'm doing it in a way that I am educating.
That's right.
And that's what's so magical about him.
Oh yeah, man. Just I wish he was with us still. Wild Man coming in with a $10 super chat for the channel. Thank you so much. That's very generous. Says, I think a great idea would be for Sam to visit Stu in jail to either learn something about her father or try and get help in how to end all of this so she can live her life. So kind of like Hannibal Lecter, go visit and get information. Okay. What do you think, Zach?
Stu like quid pro quo her. I mean, I love Silence of the Lambs.
Right.
I don't know. It's an idea for sure. I just like I said before, I think if Stu were to come back, I would want to see him in that like Cotton Weary Scream 2 capacity of just like this, like, is he the killer? Like, can we trust him? Like, just a massive red herring. And I actually wouldn't want him to be the killer in the end. I mean, maybe there's an opportunity for him to do like work independently of like what was going on, or just see like, oh, I can fuck some shit up here. But I wouldn't want to see him in prison. I don't think that it just feels very limiting for his character. Like I would want to see him like free range. Like I would want to see him going about just his everyday life and actually like be a free person.
Yes, same here. Let him roam about. And be lurking and watching and be around, like kind of like that.
Just an actual potential threat.
That's right.
If he is,
that's right. Wild Man, appreciate the super chat, and that is definitely an approach you could do. You could do it that way. I mean, that's the beautiful thing right now is there's literally anything can be done right now. It's if you can think of it in your imagination, you can write it and make it happen. And so we're all very excited to see exactly what direction this movie is going to take, especially with Landon being involved. And I hope the producers and those in the position to make these decisions will allow Christopher to have some input into this script. And I really do, Zach. And I think
I don't even know if it was a matter of just like that Radio Silence wasn't allowed to or not. Like there's definitely a hierarchy, at least while Radio Silence was there. Like I've heard that they're coming back as producers. I don't know what the story is there, but from everything I understood, James Vanderbilt was the one that like Spyglass called in, like Gary Barber, who's the CEO, called him in specifically because of past relationships, and was just like, here's all these properties that we've now acquired after they bought them out from Miramax. And it's just like, have your pick at them. He kind of had carte blanche to do whatever, just take whatever. And he's like, oh, I'll take Scream. And then it was sort of like, he was the one that was just like, and I'm going to bring in these directors from here. So there was definitely a like a totem pole with those people of just like where everyone was. And it does seem in a way that like James Vanderbilt is running the show there.
That's the feeling I get too, Zach. Yeah.
Listening to him in like interviews and stuff, it's just like he's the one in charge. And his way.
Yes.
With Christopher Landon, because I mean, I don't necessarily like, just in terms of like his credits, because he has a lot of writing credits, and that is what makes me enthusiastic about him, because I know that he understands the filmmaking process to direct a movie, but also write one as well that he can direct. And like so far, like he's done like several of the Paranormal Activity movies, which is not like a great like claim to like highbrow horror, we'll say. I mean, like those movies are enjoyable for what they are, but they're not really written. They're just sort of like, it's just like a lot of found footage scenes. And then he did, I don't know if he wrote Happy Death Day. I think he did. He wrote the sequel.
I think so. Okay.
But he directed it, and then he directed Freaky. He did not write Freaky. So I don't know really, like, you know, how much involvement he had in just working with the script and just kind of catering it to his directorial needs. So, you know, there is still some pause with him, but he seems enthusiastic about it. You know, he's willing to please the fans, I guess. Like that, just like, you know, he wants to make this a movie for the fans. And that is still like a double-edged sword to me, because, you know, there's a lot of people who, you know, that's why we get things that were like, that I thought were very gimmicky, of just sort of like, okay, we're going to New York City. Like I truly believe that Scream 6 was born from an idea of just like, let's have it set in New York City. And that was that. And then it was just, the movie was written around it. Whereas like, you know, like Scream 3 is like set in Hollywood. But it's like, that is, the location is contextualized in the script. It's contextualized with the backstory of Maureen Prescott, where there's really like just setting it in New York City was just, it was just more like an aesthetic thing. It didn't really, you know, add much other, like there's big city moments of like chases and stuff, but it's still, it didn't pertain to the plot. It was just like, it was really like action driven. So I hope that like when he says that, you know, he, you know, wants to make this a movie for the fans, that he's not just like picking out like little things that people are saying here and there, of just someone being like, I really want to see that. And it's just like, well, we're going to give that to you, without really like thinking it out of just like, how is that, you know, because that's why I think like Dewey was killed, because people were being like, well, one of them's got to die. So they were like, felt pressure to be like, well, we're going to kill him. But now we have to write a movie around the idea of killing Dewey, where it should have really been more of like an instance of like Dewey being killed organically within the story. So when I hear of just like, oh, there's going to be like a winter snow setting, it's just like, okay, so we're just going to like Black Christmas 2019. I don't even remember if there was any blood in that movie, but just like someone being killed like on
out of my head.
Snow. No, as we should. But yeah, I would want them to like just throw all the gimmicks aside,
right?
Conceptualize the movie, and then if there is like room to include or just like incorporate any of those gimmicks in a way that doesn't like change the course of the story or pull you out of it, and that would actually work within what they're trying to do, then I would say include them. And because another thing that I heard, I forget which one it was like on the commentary, so it could have been any 5 of them, including Radio Silence, of just like, the thing is, like when we're doing a Scream movie, like we always come up with all these great ideas, and then we feel that, well, if we wait or if we don't use that idea, this movie might not get a sequel, and then we never get to see that idea. So they throw all the ideas into the one movie, and I'm just like, I don't agree with that. I think that you should, you know, like just save some of your good ideas for future sequels, rather than just stockpiling them into this one thing, because then you go into the next sequel and then it's just like
Yeah.
you're back to like square one. You've got to like come up with new
right.
things, and some of those ideas, they might be great, but they might not be conducive to the story that is being told in that movie.
Yes, and I think it was Radio Silence that mentioned something about it may have been James and Guy, but it was one of the two, one of the groups that said something like, when we do a movie, we never do a movie with the idea there's going to be another one. In other words, so it's like totally different approach. Like Kevin Williamson in the original Scream trilogy, remember, he had an outline of all three films, and he didn't have the scripts written, but he had an outline, and he did for Scream 4, 5, and 6, the original Wes Craven Scream 4, 5, and 6 as well. And then you write within the connected, not how you say tissue, but the connective thread between the movies, and which is why, even though Scream 3 had to be totally rewritten with Aaron, and like you say, Wes Craven was writing daily, not credited, but he was a writer. Even with that, there's still, if you watch those first three movies, and my good friend Carbonite Jedi here on the channel, you guys know who I'm talking about. We have another channel together, the Movie Bros React, and we talk about all kinds of genres over there. Anyway, point I'm bringing up is he's not a horror fan, and I had him watch all of the Scream films, and what he said was, after we got through the third one, he said, man, this was really cool because it feels like this is one long movie. Everything's like, it feels connected. And this is a very casual fan. This is not a like what we are, like diehard analyzing everything. And so even he picked up on this, and I think it was Wes, honestly, is what was the main reason for that. But it was Kevin too, especially in the first two, where it's the same characters are carrying over, and it's just a connective thread. And what I fear with 5 and 6, now with 7, that because they didn't frame these movies with that mindset, as you mentioned, it was one movie at a time. Like, all we're going to do is 5. We're not going to get another one. Well, we got another one. Okay. So we're going to make a movie like we're never going to get 7. And it is going to feel different when you look at this continuity, connectivity. Of course, they can connect dots to where they left off. You can do that. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, if you start to plan for the third one in the first one, and you're planting seeds in the first movie that will grow over the next two movies, then it's like, wow, it really is connected and well thought out.
And also in a way with like the Wes Craven movies, is that things were planted that made it like every single one of those movies, it can be viewed as a standalone movie. Like even like Scream 2, there's really nothing within that movie that would connect the whole, like the Roman Bridger stuff. It's in there, and all of these movies are still relevant within like the next chapter that comes out and the next chapter, but you can still watch them on their own, and you can watch them together. And I'm not saying that, you can't do that with Screams 5 and 6 at this point so far, but there is definitely there's a lot of inconsistency that is making it difficult to have that connective tissue, as you say. And especially now that the directing team is stepping down, and Christopher Landon is coming back, like that is obviously causing a lot of trepidations for some people. I think that it would be worse if Guy and James were replaced. I mean, that again is a double-edged sword, because in one side of it, it's just like, well, maybe they should be replaced. But that's just me. And on the other side, it's just like, well, I would rather, if they're the ones who are writing these characters, I would like to see them, bring this to its fruition here. And better it be them who've written these more consistently. Because with Scream 3, like Aaron Kruger was not familiar with Screams 1 and 2. He like wrote these characters, and a lot of what we see in the finished product is Wes stepping in and doing a lot of those uncredited rewrites. So
right.
I mean, it's anyone's guess, like I said, and we don't know if this is going to be a trilogy. They might just end it, and it might not have like a sense of finality to it. Like it might just be another Scream 6 ending, where I mean, like that could be the end of Sam's story, but it's just like it doesn't feel like it. Like these could just keep going on, like a Fast and Furious type franchise, which I think would be terrible. But it's that's the studio mentality. It's just like as long as they're making money, we're going to keep making them. And they're not, they're not really at that point. Like the writers and directors aren't going to be thinking about like how to tie things together thematically. It's more just like, what exciting adventure can we do now? What kind of like set pieces can we throw these people in? And that's what I got out of Scream 6 of a lot. It's just like there's like the character work and the like any sort of like thematic through line was very tenuous at best. Like we did spend time with these people, but it was just like it was a lot of action, and they were just like connected together with these moments with these characters, which felt empty to me. And that's my fear going forward, is just it's going to be like a lot of, you know, like Vin Diesel and crew, just swap out Sam Carpenter for Vin Diesel, and we're having barbecues. And it's just like we're family, and it's all about family. But wait, there's a new Ghostface, and then we have to work with past Ghostface killers to stop new Ghostface killers. And I just like, I don't want that. I'll watch it, but I will. I'll be hate watching it. We'll see.
Yeah. Hey, a real quick shout out to my buddy Knight, my good friend Knight, over the Night Watch Zone. Says, I love this clip. He's talking about the Wes Craven clip earlier. Hey, everyone. Salute to the panel. Man, salute to you too, buddy. Glad you're here. Thanks for stopping in. And appreciate that super chat. Wow, man, for your $10 super chat. That was very kind. And we have a few more super chats to get to. Joe, what's up, Joe, at the Dreaming Insomniacs with a $5 chat for the channel. Two of our favorite podcast guests. What's up, Zack and Steven? Love you guys. Oh, thank you, Joe. Very kind, buddy. And we'll keep it going here. Got a few more. Savvy Film Geek. I love that name with the $5 super chat. Thank you, buddy. Really enjoying the stream. All right. I'm wondering, who would you guys personally cast as Christina Carpenter? My pick is Rosalind Sanchez all the way. Ooh. What say you, Zack?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of people say like Salma Hayek, but, and you know, beautiful woman. Like she probably could play a lot younger, but I mean, she is 10 years older than what this, like the age is required for this. So I think that it might be more appropriate to cast someone who's more so like Neve Campbell's age or Skeet Ulrich, like the, you know, the people born around that time. I don't really, I don't know. I couldn't, I'd have to look up. I know like one that I like think of. I don't know if she would be tonally appropriate for her, but I know that, you know, she has done the drama, but she's more so comedy, and that's Eva Longoria, who she was on Desperate Housewives for however long that show was on. I could just see her as being like a very like opportunistic, like, you know, depending on like who this character is, like very just like not serious about being a mother, but more so just like about different things. And if she's, you know, fallen off the wagon or whatever, just like someone who could play that kind of just like not a good mother figure, but she's just sort of there, and she's more so like looking out for herself. Like she's the number one person in her life, and her daughters are secondary. Like, you know, that might be a good person to play. But other than that, I you know, obviously this has to be a Latina actress, because Billy is white. Right. So there's very specific casting here, but whatever the case may be, this is a character that needs to be in this movie. If Christina Carpenter is not in Scream 7, I will consider that to be a complete and utter failure on the filmmaker's part.
Wow. Yeah. And I'm with Zack here. I I honestly need to do a little more research. I hate to tell you that in a super chat. I like to always give you an answer, but I will say this: I wasn't familiar with Rosalind Sanchez, and I just looked her up right now, and she's 50 years old, so that's perfect. That's exactly the age, around the age that she should be.
Mhm.
And she's a gorgeous woman, very much so. She looks like she's been in some movies here. Let's see. Let me see here. We got. I'm trying to think of one that everyone would recognize. Um, Game Plan. She's been on some TV episodes. Okay, she was in Rush Hour 2.
Her name sounds familiar. I've definitely heard of her.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. She's been in actually a lot of stuff. She's also a Puerto Rican singer-songwriter. So she also is she does music, dances, models, produces, writes, and acts. So she's kind of a, all in one package. So yeah, she's been in a bunch of stuff. So I can't say that I can recall her acting, but she definitely looks like she could fit the role from what I can see.
Yeah, I've definitely seen her in these movies.
Yeah.
So that's actually a very good
yeah, it is. Pick. That's a great pick.
Yeah.
Thank you, Savvy, for your super chat. That really helps the channel, and it's a great question. And we're going to keep it going to the front of the line, as I always promise. Perry, what's up, Perry, with $5 for the channel tonight? Says, hey, I'm late to the chat. Zack Cherry is here too? Yeah, he is. This is awesome. Big fan of both of you. Aw.
Thanks, Perry.
Thank you, Perry. That is very kind, and thank you for your support tonight as well of the channel. All right, Eric's coming in with a $2 super chat at Two Boys. He says, what do you feel horror movies are missing today? Oh, wow. He's going to get us thinking on our noggins, Zack. Oh, my gosh. Zack, you want to take it first? And I'll chime in.
It's such a loaded question. I think that we're not seeing enough original content, sadly. I mean, everything is a pre-existing IP. Like here we are talking about Scream. But it's a little bit deeper than that. Because there's there are new movies. I've seen, and I don't like to use Rotten Tomatoes as kind of the being the gospel truth of what every movie's score is, but there's been some absurd ratings, like Megan coming out fresh whenever that was released, things like that. That movie to me was just so average. That I don't know. I think that horror in general right now is everything about it, visually, acting, the technical aspects is all at the top of its game. Horror has really kind of entered this zone in the film industry where it's popular, and there's a demand for it. But I feel like the writing is where things are weak. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean that the writers are not showing up. I think it's just the way that the studios, and I think that if this writer strike is telling us anything, it's just that the way that the studios are treating the writing and treating the writers as if they're not that important and they don't deserve the worth that they get, or not giving them the appropriate amount of time to develop their ideas. That's why we're going to, kind of see these half-baked movies, which I think we've seen a lot of. I think that the two best movies that I've seen this year, horror-wise, just came out this summer, and that was Talk to Me and Cobweb. And that one got such a nothing release. They dropped it during Barbenheimer. Nobody saw it, and I don't think it's it's not. It didn't blow me away, but I think just in terms of everything that I've seen this year so far, it was kind of a breath of fresh air. And then Talk to Me from Australian filmmakers whose names I don't remember. But that was just a really interesting, it kind of took an idea that we've seen before, which is sort of like kind of like the Ring or the Final Destination or the Smile, like that kind of subgenre. But rather than going down this rabbit hole of just like looking for answers that they're never going to answer, like just like the characters having these questions only to come to the end of the movie and it doesn't matter because you're going to die anyway. They approached it on such a much more emotional level and just showed like the effects of just how something like this kind of wears down on a person's psyche as they go through it. And I think that was such a, and it just seems like this is just a natural thing that would be in a story that you would write about, or like in these movies, rather than just going through the predictable nonsense. But like, it just seems so invigorating to see it here. And that story actually meant something. Like it had a profound effect on me, or just the way that I watched it. I know a lot of people have felt the same way as well. So I think, I don't know. Yeah. It's just, I think that they just, it's the writing, and it's the studios that need to understand that writing is important.
True. That's right. I think some of the mindset is from the studios, people, execs. We got an IP that everyone knows in this genre, whether it's Saw or, Scream, which I love, Halloween. I mean, you name it. One day we're going to get a new Friday movie. We got Texas Chainsaw Massacre last year, right? So it's like, and it kind of reminds me of like, and I hate to beat, well, I don't actually hate it because they were not very good, especially Harvey, the Weinsteins. All right, I'm going to go back a little bit. And I remember the marketing for Scream 4, I don't know how it was, Zach, where you live, but I will tell you where I live down in southern states in Texas, there was like no marketing for that movie. I didn't know that Scream 4 was even out until I saw it on a billboard on my local theater. It was already showing. And I'm like, what? A Scream movie? And then, of course, I look it up, and the marketing was so terrible. And so I'm very vocal on my opinion that the reason we did not get another Wes Craven trilogy was 90% marketing. I think that they were so sure that they could rest on the laurels of the name 10 years later that they didn't have to put any money into it. Oh, it's Scream, it's Wes Craven. And they just dropped the movie out, minimal marketing. And I'm telling you, if that movie, I really believe this, Zach, if that movie had been marketed like we've seen with 5 and with 6, with that kind of vigor, I'm telling you, I really believe this. It would have been a huge success. We would have gotten another 2 movies, and you and I would be sitting here talking about 6 Wes Craven Scream movies.
The Carpenter sisters might have not even existed.
That's right.
It could have been a completely different thing. I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, they did fall back on their laurels of just like, we have like they were at the top of their game with Dimension Studios in the late 90s, of just like everything that came out was like, this is what we want to see. This is what people are going to love. And I think that they, like, everything that they did that was not Scream was at least in some capacity Scream related, or Scream adjacent in a way that was just inspired by Scream, like Halloween H2O, The Faculty. You can even say like Teaching Mrs. Tingle, or like other, like Cursed. And that was a nightmare of a production in and of itself. And that was obviously years later, but it was almost like because they had done these 3 movies and they had been the ones that were successful for them. And then 10 years later, they decided to go at it again. And it was totally a thing of them just being like, yes, we're going to do a new Scream. It's word of mouth. We'll take it where it needs to go. If Scream 4, say like technology was more advanced and we had already, had social media as much as we did at that time. I mean, if that was the case, I don't think that the commentary for Scream 4 would have worked, because it was really ahead of its time with that. But
it was
had a Scream movie like now come out, like they don't even have to do as much marketing. Like, it's insane the amount of marketing that they did do for Scream 6, because I feel like some of it was not necessary. It was also misleading, but some of it was not necessary, because that's where you can rely on your fan base of and social media. And social media is obviously so much cheaper than buying Super Bowl ads and stuff like that. It's like, it's crazy that, like, just the last 12 years of a difference that is made. And I also think that there's part of the reason why we didn't see that, like, continued trilogy is because Scream 4, the way it ended, kind of, it wasn't like, I know initially, like, they wanted to do the cliffhanger, and I mean, I'm glad that it wasn't, in a way, because I don't think that any Scream movie should end on a cliffhanger. I think that every movie should be its own unique entry that has a beginning and an end to it, and that you can tie it up in a nice little bow. But I think that Kevin Williamson, like, the idea that he came up with, he was onto something at the time, because that was, 2012, we have the Avengers come out. And this was really where the idea of the cinematic universe was kicking off, and people were doing that, of just like all these, like, just like a continuous story, that I think that had they done that and actually did end it on a cliffhanger or something like that, with this idea of just going into 5 and 6 after that, it probably would have worked. Of course, with the proper marketing, that we could have seen those movies, and Wes Craven might have had 2 more to add to his resume before he left us. So, woulda, coulda, shoulda,
I know, it's just well, Two Boys, Eric, thanks for your great question there. Much appreciated, my friend. And we're going to keep going. We got a couple more super chats to come through. Joe at Dreaming Insomniacs. What's up, Joe? Coming back with a $2 super chat. Thank you. Are we wanting to see Kirby back? 4-7. That's a great question I haven't asked you yet, Zach. Tell me your feelings, if you would, first. How do you feel the character Kirby was written and treated in 6? And number 2, after that, do you want to see her in 7?
This is complicated, because I really do like Kirby as a character. Like, she has some flaws in 4. I don't think that she was written as realistically as, like, say, Sydney was in the original Scream. Like, they're obviously different characters. Like, Kirby did not lose her mother the year earlier, but there are certain things with Kirby in 4 where it's just kind of like, Olivia just died last night. Why are you, like, so cheerful to be going to a stabathon and all that stuff? But I feel like once Sydney and her get into that basement and the call comes in, that Kirby that we see on the phone, that when she's just like spouting off the remakes, it's like, that's the character, that's the final girl there, that's the one that we needed. And I was really enthusiastic to hear that she was coming back. I loved the idea that she was alive and had survived. And then Scream 6 happened, and I don't feel that she needed to be there. I think that they could have done either her or Gail. I think that they both served a very similar purpose in the movie. And if it had just been one of them, we might have gotten we would have gotten a lot more scenes with one of them. And if this case it was Kirby. I'm not a huge fan of, like, the FBI idea of just, like, making her FBI. Like, it feels like it's just like a very cheap and easy way out of just, like, including her into the story, to just be like, yes, I'm, like, law official now. And just, like, even her like conversation with Tara where she says, like, I didn't want to be afraid of the monsters anymore. I wanted them to be afraid of me. Like, it just harkens back to that kind of, like, the childish dialogue of just, like, it's just right. Too easy. I think there's so many different ways that they could have brought her back into the movie. And just as an FBI agent, I feel like the script undermines her. Like, it just, like, she doesn't come off as competent. Clearly, like, neither does Gail. That's a completely different story, though. And I don't think that they they were trying to set her up as a red herring, and they just went about it in the completely incorrect way. Because I mean, I hear from some people that they were surprised at the end when Bailey called Sam to say that Kirby was unstable or all that, but it wasn't. There was no history there to set. It wasn't like a Cotton Weary situation where here is a character that has this seedy past. Could they be suspicious? I was never suspicious of her. I mean, truth be told, I was spoiled that Bailey was the killer because that clip came out and people were talking about it. So I knew he was the killer, but I still was holding on to some hope that maybe that was a fake scene that they did and purposefully released just to throw people off. Cause I was just like, oh, that's something Wes Craven would do. So maybe they're taking a page from his book, or like Kevin Williamson told them. And so even like as the movie progressed, had I not even seen that information or watched the scene, the fact that Bailey was the one, just like the redirecting there, she wasn't set up well in that regard. So I just, if I had to compare like her appearance in 4 to 6, like 4 is like way up here, and then 6,
right?
So
yeah,
having said that, to lead into part 2, I would. Not that I never want to see her back, but I don't think that there's any urgency to have her come back so soon. If they do another movie, I'd like to see her like pair up with Sydney again, because I feel like they had really good chemistry in the 2 moments that they had in Scream 4, that it would make more sense in my eyes to wait for a future installment where they do bring Sydney back and then have Kirby come back in that. But I think that there's more of an impetus to get Gail back at this point, because her story was left like not in a great place. There's not really any finality to it, and I feel that they need to redeem the character in a way. So I think that if anyone comes back, just in terms of like a legacy character in 7, it should be Gail. And I think that that's always going to make sense, because Gail gloms to Ghostface. Like wherever there's a killer, Gail is going to be there, because that is her life.
Yep. It is.
And if that's the case, I hope that whatever ideas they come up with, because there's a lot of ideas that were put on the page, like Tara saying, like maybe you're just afraid that without Ghostface in your life, you'll fade away.
That's
and you put something like that out there, but then you don't do anything with it. It's just, it feels like, okay, you're just writing for the sake of writing. Like you're not actually exploring these ideas. So I feel that they owe that character a huge debt of just giving her some sort of resolution, because who knows how much longer Courtney is going to want to do these movies. Like
that's true, man.
Yeah. Like she might be ready to retire soon.
That's right. I agree with everything you said, man. Honestly, I think for me, I'm kind of neutral on Kirby. I'm like, I'm okay if she's back. I'm okay if she's not back in 7. I'm kind of like, I'm not real passionate either way. And I think part of that was because of what Zack touched on. I just didn't feel like, I feel like there could have been more from Kirby in 6. I mean, she was in a good portion of the movie, but I don't know. I guess I just kept waiting for the old Gail scenes. I was so desperately wanting Gail from Scream 1 through 4. Pick them, any of those. When it would have been amazing. And same for Kirby. So I'm kind of neutral, Joe. I can take or leave Kirby. Now, guys, I want to let you know we are getting ready to wind down. We've been going for 2 hours already, which is crazy. It doesn't even seem like it's been that long. But we are going to have to wrap pretty soon. It is late.
Time goes by fast when you're having fun.
It does, Zach. It goes by so fast. So I'm going to give last call. We have one more super chat that we're going to get to now. And then we're going to start to head out towards the exit door. What's up, Nero? Nero Borgata with a $10 super chat. Thank you. That's so generous. Penelope Cruz in 96 looks exactly like Melissa Barrera today. Google it. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. She should play Christina Carpenter. Well, you know what? I am going to Google it. Why not? I Googled Rosalind. Penelope Cruz is a well-known, obviously a very well-known actress. She's been in tons and tons of stuff. Yeah, she's 49, Zack, so she's the right age for sure. And yeah, I could see the Melissa Barrera comparisons here. I mean, not a dead ringer or anything like that, but definitely there's some comparisons you could draw. I'll just go first on this one real quick. And be super fast. I have no problem with Penelope Cruz. If they can sign her and get her to commit to coming to be in the film as Christina, I think she's a great actress, and I think there's a definite resemblance. So I know she would do a great job, Zach. We've seen Penelope for years acting in movies with Tom Cruise and everybody else. So
yeah, absolutely. I think another thing like we need to take into consideration is that like the original trilogy, especially like they would like cast actors who would have this like this pedigree already of just like these well-known people who would have accomplished careers, and it was almost like a big deal that like, oh, this person's going to be in this movie. And I mean, to a certain extent in Scream 4, I know that there was a lot of like casting issues and changes before the production actually started. But obviously like with the last two movies, they've really kind of gotten down to, more like unknowns and like bringing them on. Like obviously like Jenna Ortega came in and, she found that success like in between those movies because of Wednesday. But I mean, like Wednesday's still pretty new. Like it's like kind of we don't know what the future of that's going to be. So I wouldn't really, say that she's like, belongs in that category yet. But I was just like, people like Sarah Michelle Gellar, when she came into Scream 2, like that was a huge deal. Even like Courtney Cox in the first movie was a huge deal. So I mean, it would be nice in this new movie to like bring on like these established actors. There's someone who'd been like, oh my gosh, like this person's gonna be in this movie. Like that's wild. So I could definitely get on board with Penelope.
Me too. And it would be an head turner. We'd be like, oh wow, man, that's pretty cool to have a Penelope Cruz in the movie. Like my buddy Chris at Discover Montreal, I just had his comment up. He's like, man, she's an Oscar winner. And he's like, no way she's coming. And you could be right, but you know what? You never know, man. I mean, she may be like, yeah, that'd be fun. I've never done a movie like Scream. So let's, I mean, you never can tell what the actors, personally are thinking or will want to do. So I think that's a really cool idea. So Nero, thank you for your super chat and your suggestion of Penelope Cruz. And Two Boys is just submit one in real quick. Thank you so much, Eric. 3 items to own from the Scream franchise for you. Oh, Zach, you get to pick 3 items you could own. I'm guessing this is like screen-worn clothing or weapons or...
Oh, like props and stuff?
Props, yeah, anything.
Okay, I would go for... I never was a fan of the Scream 3 voice changer. Like I always thought that was like really gimmicky, but I've kind of like I've grown to like it, and then it's kind of solidified with me. I don't know if anyone has watched the assembly cut of Scream 3 now. Which I watched it, and I agree with Wes Craven. I think that like he made all the right choices of things to cut out there. Like there's nothing in that like enhanced that movie for me or added anything that wasn't already like expertly and efficiently delivered in the product that we got, save for the one scene where we see the killer. At least like we don't see them, but just like the way that they're using the computer technology to download the voice algorithms. Like there was something about that just felt so giallo to me. That it just like, it was creepy. It felt violating. And it was just like, this is like the coolest thing that I've seen a killer do. I didn't care for the part where he put the chip in and then behind the mask was like, did Sydney's voice and said, what's your favorite scary movie? that could have been left out. But like actually seeing the computer technology, that was really awesome. So that I would say that, yes, the voice changer, and I wish they had kept that scene in, but I would want that. I would want I don't know, something from like maybe Omega Beta Zeta. I don't know, maybe like I saw in the Shrine they had like an Omega Beta Zeta t-shirt, which I don't think was ever even like worn in the movie, but just like to show that like, yeah, they had their own shirts or anything. I don't know. This is a hard question. Why don't you give me one?
Okay. For me, it would be to own the screen-worn Stu Macher red robe that he actually wore in Scream 96. The real
Hugh
one.
Hefner one, yeah.
Yes.
Very nice. Yeah. Oh, this is such a complicated question. Really put us on the spot here.
And it did. You know, I'm going to steal another one. I'm going to steal yours too.
Okay.
The Scream 3 voice changer. Actually, I would actually like to have one of the Scream not worn, but Scream used voice changers that Roman used to push the buttons. That would be the really cool item in your collection, I think.
Absolutely. And if we're like looking at like collection pieces, then I would say give me Gail's wig in I'll take the Scream 2 and the Scream 3 one. I was gonna say like this, the one with the streaks, but I'll take the micro bangs and just have that on display. That'd be a fun one.
That would be fun.
Yeah, I think so.
Sarah's coming in with Dewey's badge. Ooh, that would be
another good one. Yeah,
it sure is. How about like
I got it.
Oh, God. Okay, wait, go ahead.
I'll take Mickey's camcorder.
Ah, nice.
Yeah,
the handheld unit.
If we're going for our favorite killers, something that is they owned, that'll be mine.
I love it.
Yeah.
Caden wants Bailey's jacket in Act 3. Okay. Worn mask from 96. Nice. There's so many things that you get. I mean, literally, we could create a whole list of like top 10 things we could want to keep. That's awesome. Thank you two boys for a fun question. And that is so great, guys. Well, listen, guys, we've gone for 2 hours plus, and we're going to go ahead and wrap up for tonight. But like I say, if we didn't get to your question, I'm so sorry, but I'm so glad you were here. I hope you had fun and you had a great time despite that. And for all of you who sent super chats, thank you for your support of the channel. And listen, guys, we're still at almost 70 people this late at night on a work night. It's pretty darn impressive. This was a great time. And guys, please click these links right here that Sarah has put in the chat. These are Zack's channels. And I would like for you all to go to both of them and smash that subscribe button and the bell icon. Yes, smash it, dude, because when Zack puts out a video, you need to be aware of it. All right, you got to hit the bell icon. It's worth your time. You're going to enjoy the content. Trust me. Go there and hit the video tab and just buckle up, Buttercup, because Zack's videos are unique. They're different. They're very, very in depth. And Zack, what does it take on an average for you to make one of your incredibly detailed Who Killed Who videos or your analysis videos? Just give us some insight of the time it takes you to put that together.
I don't know, it's hard to say because sometimes it does take a really long time, and then I feel like I need to stop doing it and then make like something easier. Like that's the thing. Like ranking videos are so easy to make, and they're my least favorite to make because they're usually the ones that just like create the most drama,
right?
But they usually do. They're usually more successful. So it's just sometimes it's a matter of like, okay, I haven't made anything in a while, I have to put this out. But like the Who Killed Who for Scream 5, which is the last one I did last year, took a really long, like it took like 5 weeks, maybe almost a month and a half. Because there was like, you have to write it you have to watch the movies, and then you have to kind of like, you have to watch all the bonus material. You have to read the scripts. You have to like, there's so much involved of just kind of like getting the best perspective of everything combined, and then weighing it against what is actually shown on the screen. And then from there, it's just like, it's writing the script. And then at a certain point with that, because all like the previous Who Killed Who's I did were not like massive videos. They might have run for as much as like 25 minutes at most, 13 at the least. And this one with Scream 5, it was just like, there's no way that I could possibly tell this story or whatever that I had to put together from all this information without going into all this detail, because there was so much conjecture involved in it. And it turned out like I had to actually create what I thought was the narrative for the killers behind the scenes, which I hadn't done before. Like, that's how much in depth it was. And in the past, like, there are certain things that I cut out at the last minute that then I found people would comment on them. They're like, well, what about this? You didn't mention this. And I'm like, well, I was going to, but I cut it for time. And now I realize, cut nothing for time, put everything in there. So that one, it took forever, because, you know, once you write it, then record it, and then, you know, overlays and all that, it's a big deal. I'm gonna be working on the sixth one. I know a lot of people have been asking me. That's coming up next. Like, it'll hopefully be September. Like, it's good before the end of September. That's the goal here. And I don't think it'll be as difficult, because I don't think it's as difficult a movie to decipher as the fifth one was. Obviously there's a lot of plot holes in 6, but I think that's kind of the beauty of it, is that a lot of it can be discounted because of certain plot holes. But that's
true.
I hope it doesn't take as long to make. That's all I'll say.
Ooh. Well, you know, I say like this, man, take your time, because whenever it's done, it'll be great, you know. And you can't rush. I mean, we were just talking about criticizing Skix for rushing the script. So, you know, let's apply that here. Let's take your time, and it's going to be great, buddy.
I always think of the toy cleaner in Toy Story 2, when he's just like, you can't rush art.
That's right.
When he's
it's
trying
true.
to clean up Woody. That's
man.
Sage wisdom.
It is sage wisdom. I mean, because at the end of the day, we are artists of a different kind. We're creating content from scratch. So, yeah, absolutely. Eric says, Zach, thanks for sharing your insight and being here. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Eric.
All right. And Craven, keep rocking it. Thank you, buddy. Sure will. Let's see. Make sure if I missed anything else here real quick. I'm skimming down. And Sarah's coming in saying, thank you, Zach. Always so fun when you hang out with us. Absolutely.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the links as well.
Yes, indeed. Oh, yes. This was really, really great. Take care, Joe. Sweet dreams to you too, buddy. So, guys, we're going to go ahead and call it a night here. Zach's a whole hour ahead of me, so it's late for me. I know it's late for him. So we're going to go ahead and call it a night.
I'm an hour behind.
Oh, you're behind me. You're okay.
Yeah, I'm mountain time. You're later.
Oh, you're mountain time. Yeah. I always get confused on that, man. There's so many time zones.
Honestly, yeah. It's
like, oh my gosh.
Mess up which side of it is. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure. This is great. It's been an amazing time, Zach. I'll meet you backstage in just a minute for our final wrap up. But for everyone here in the chat, thank you all again so much. And I'm going to leave you with a very brief Wes Craven clip. It's only fitting that we end with a quick clip from Wes. And so we're going to hear from him now. Actually, we're going to hear from some folks that worked with Wes, which is pretty cool. So check out this clip before you go, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for coming.
Bye, guys.
What was it like to be directed by Wes Craven?
He's
has such a psychological bent to him, and so he was always sort of probing deeper and looking for the motives behind things and asking more of you, and but at the same time it was done with such a gentleness, and he really respected his actors and admired them.
For me, Wes was he was a kind of a gentleman. He was a double threat, Larry. He was a writer and a director. So if we had trouble with a scene, he could fix the writing as well as restaging it. But he left me alone. I worked.
Really?
Yeah, I did a television series with Wes. I did 3 movies with Wes, and he left me alone, which I liked. I liked that respect.
Think about it, he makes these wild movies, right? You know, very scary. But off camera, he's a very relaxed person, well-read. We got
Whereas you're doing this grotesque scene and blood and he'd be just...
very calm, very peaceful, and he feels like he's very confident in his ability. So he feels that he gets it, he got it, he can move on. And I'll never forget this. I'm like, we're making a horror movie. Like, shouldn't it be crazier? And he's like, just because we're making a horror movie doesn't mean it has to be horrific.